So we have a bit to talk about, Felim. Um,
For sure.
there's a lot going on at the moment in your business and Irish hospitality and stuff. Um, can I just start? I suppose I've been looking into your story a bit and your business that you've had down through the years, and you seem to have had a lot going on.
Sure.
So what's your kind of, I suppose, current state in business? Like, what's your kind of business portfolio looking like now?
Yeah. So I've done like a huge amount, all mainly based around food. So it might be food technology, it might be food exports, it might be running restaurants and cafes. So and doing consultancy. So they're kind of the broad spectrum of what I'm doing and what I have done. So basically, at the moment, what I'm doing at the moment is that I run a number of cafe restaurants and a number of Insomnia coffee shops. But I'm also involved in a Swedish company which does autonomous retail, which is basically retail without any staff.
Yeah.
And I'm doing consultancy work then with a company called Johnson Retail Services, which has a wide variety of technologies, not just for the hospitality, but for the retail sector in general.
Right, very interesting. And currently you're over in Sweden, am I right?
I'm in Sweden at the moment, yeah. Coming to you live from, because that's one of the partner companies that we have in the autonomous. They're within the Nordics in general. They are very advanced in relation to integrating autonomous as one part of the solution into retail. It's not going to take over. It's
Right.
not going to be your only channel, but they're quite advanced all across the Nordics, in be it train stations, be it in student accommodation, be it
Yeah.
out. On the side of a motorway, you can get access 24 hours to autonomous stores. So it's just something we don't see in the Irish marketplace yet.
Incredible. So I know haven't been in it, but I remember hearing recently in Dublin Airport, I think there was a fully autonomous
Yes,
store there when you go into Terminal 1 on the right.
that's
Is that something
since
you're looking to?
closed.
Sorry?
That's since closed.
Oh, has it
Yeah,
really? Okay.
yeah. Yes, within the airport model, there we what we're calling it is a hub and spoke model, where that you could have, if you could imagine, Dublin Airport has different piers, and at certain times of the day there might be no one, maybe late at night
Yeah.
or very early in the morning, things might be open. So this would allow for if you had a hub where the main coffee shop or restaurant was, is that you could have satellite opportunities with no staff. So basically, it's through your phone. You just
Yeah.
scan a QR code. You go in. The coffee won't activate until you've paid. The door to the fridge with the sandwiches and stuff won't open until you've paid. And obviously, then there's a pre-registration so that you have your. We have your details before you go in. There's cameras, but it means that one person could go around every 20 minutes servicing these
Yeah.
hubs,
Yeah.
or sorry, these spokes. So from the hub, so really you could get three, four, five of these opportunities up and running in the likes of the airport, with only one staff member. So it's allowing a
Brilliant.
retailer to really maximize
Yeah. Yeah.
their opportunity.
I'll ask you one last question. Sorry, now I'm getting bogged down on this on
Sure,
that.
yeah,
It's
no
just
problem.
very interesting. Um, what's the biggest, I suppose, stumbling blocks there? Because the obvious one that people are going to think of is, there'll be lads there in
I know
Ireland
you're
or
going to
Dublin or whatever
say,
would have a field day with their pockets. So what
yeah.
are the issues with
Okay.
that?
Well, so you know what, that is pretty much the first question that we're always asked. And one, you would think, there may be a societal issue in Ireland versus Scandinavia. To some extent, that might be the case. But, in every business, there's going to be pilferage. Absolutely. In every coffee shop, in every shop, everywhere there's pilferage. And if that's going to be your stumbling block, well, then you're just not going to open up a regular shop. You're kind of,
Yeah.
you're pandering towards the 2% that steal rather than the 98% that don't. So what we are doing is that, first of all, there's a pre-authorization to use the service first. There's a pre-authorization. So on that, we have your credit card and we maybe take €1, €2. So we do have a connection between you and a payment mechanism.
Yeah.
Obviously, then there's a camera, and the cameras will pick up who you are and what happened and things like that. And also too is that it's not an element of sort of that there's no one there. As I said, is that the model that we're envisaging is that there's someone kind of patrolling's the wrong word, but going around and making sure, you know, the coffee machines, the milk is topped up. So you're never going to eradicate it. But if you put in the checks and balances into it, a pre-authorization, a pre-validation of a credit card, camera systems, obviously we think that the kind of pilferage level that is there in every business will still be there. But what you're doing is you're saving massively on labor. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Right. Let's segue into on that point.
Yes. Into hospitality in general.
Into hospitality, Irish hospitality. I know you are quite vocal online on LinkedIn about kind of Irish hospitality and the VAT rate, etc., etc. What can I get your opinions, obviously, on the current state, running a business in Ireland today? What are the kind of challenges?
Well, from a basic, I'm a second generation of a family business, so we're 58 years. And as I keep on saying, is that up until 4 years ago, never got a government grant. And going forward, I don't want a government grant. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to build a business, to be able to make a profit at the end of the day, reinvest in that, expand, and pay the staff accordingly. So there's a lot of dilemmas that's going on at the moment. Is that what the government tried to do about 2 years ago, is that they, and rightly so, I'm not in any criticism, is that they wanted to bring the wage rate and the conditions up for their staff, and I fully accept that. But they did it at a time when the economy wasn't capable of absorbing that with all the other things that were happening. So you had food inflation into the 30%. You had a near quadrupling of energy prices. Now, the prices have come down, but we're still running at 88% ahead. We're nearly double of where we were. And then, and in insurance costs. So all of these costs were exponentially higher here than they were across anywhere else in Europe. So we still have the highest energy costs. We still have the second highest minimum wage. We still have one of the highest insurance costs. So what was the cost of actually doing business 2 years ago, 3 years ago in Ireland just exponentially went up. And at that time, the government then decided that they wanted to bring in all of the excess or increased cost of wage demands for the sector. Yeah. So we had obviously the minimum wage increases. We had the auto enrollment, which comes in now this year. That's not in effect over the last few years, but it is in effect that will add to business. We had all the sick days, and as I said, I appreciate all these. Yeah. But then on top of that, they put VAT. Not just 4.5%, it's a 50% increase at a time when energy had quadrupled, at a time when insurance had doubled, at a time when the wage inflation was up by 30%. So really, they basically put too much, too quick onto a sector, onto an economy that was already struggling under huge increases in other sectors. And it's just wrong timing. So anything to do to the wages and the staff, I absolutely agree with. But loading it on top of everything else, that's the problem. Yeah.
So we have a general election coming the end of this month. And obviously all the parties are coming out with their different policies, and they all seem to want to help.
Fine Gael seem to help now.
Yeah. What would you like to see? What do you think is this? What could they do at this point to kind of make business a bit easier or more viable?
Yeah, and I hear so many commentators saying, "Oh my God, you can't run a business just by getting VAT reduction." And I can hear it from other sectors of the society. It's not just because we're looking at the VAT. If you look at the hospitality business, probably around 35% of our wage bill of our cost is labor. Yeah. If you were to look at pharmacy, it might be 9. If you were to look at a supermarket, it might be 5. If you're looking at manufacturing, it might be 1. But 35+% of our cost is wages. So anything to do with wages has a disproportionate effect. And again, tends to be female employment in the hospitality sector. So I'm a total advocate and agree that we have to bring the wages of our staff up and all the conditions of our staff up. But you cannot do that and then load more and more and more and more costs up. So the quickest and easiest and fairest way to be able to bring money back into businesses is to reduce the VAT immediately. and cut out the grants. So, because with all due respect, is that my energy bills went from 8,000 a month to 28,000 a month. So a 4,000, so that's a month. So a 4,000 grant from the government is literally a drop in the ocean to the amount of increases I've seen in my energy bills. Like, and that's why it's not being disingenuous. It's all great in getting it, but really, like, you know, when the costs are escalating so much, the boost up grants are just a drop in the ocean. And so therefore, by reducing the VAT, which it's not just a 4.5%, it's a 50% increase of where we were, that would instantly bring cash back into the businesses that will allow us to be able to fund the staff increases. It's a quid pro quo for the government, is that it allows us to be able to reinforce, be able to bring, to be able to keep prices low, to be able to pay the staff. And as we also saw too, is that when the government did bring down the VAT a number of years ago, the actual VAT receipt went up because more people were shopping because the prices were kept lower. So, you know, if the government really want to do something within the first 100 days, not even within the first 100 days, is do this. It will have a dramatic effect on sales. They'll probably see an increase. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but this happened before. Bring it down. We can keep prices down. We can pay our staff. It'll mean more to the staff because the prices are kept down. So it increases their buying power.
Right. You mentioned right at the beginning, we talked about autonomous retail. In terms of hospitality, surely, like, do you see a world, I suppose, in the future where the labor could be reduced right down through, you know, some level of AI or autonomy or robotics?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, another one of my businesses, it was I had an export and a consultancy business to China for 8 years. And China are streets ahead in relation to technology embedded into food retail in all aspects of retail. For instance, facial recognition for payments, or AI payment for your goods. So you just go up with your tray and it sees exactly what's on your tray. You look at a camera, the camera sees your face, it's linked to your phone and your payments, you pay and you walk away. Right. And that was live 5 years ago. Like, I saw that 5 years ago at the Alibaba headquarters. So that those sort of technologies, you know, again, you know, there's robotic servers, there's robotic table clearers. So, you know, are they mainstream? No, you know, but there is absolutely, and autonomous retail is exactly that. Is that labor now is the critical? It's not insurance, it's not energy, it's not the product cost itself. Labor now, certainly within the hospitality, is the biggest cost, and anything that a person can do to bring down that or eliminate that is going to form part of their business.
Very interesting. Right, let me finish up on two final ones, Felim.
Yes.
So on that point then about other industries and sectors and stuff, any other business that maybe, I don't know, you wish you had started, that you like the look of, or you most admire? Is there anything else out there that you really like?
There's two that spring to mind. Believe it or not, back in 1998, myself and two other guys got together and we set up this company called MobiLink. And what it was, this is before smartphones. This is 10 years before smartphones. So we were still on, you know, in the Nokia 6310s. And we actually set up and patented a business that if you rang 1-800-TAXI, it would put you through to a taxi, which back in those days was, we had kind of hackney cabs that you had to ring up. And so it got around the law that we had made you had made direct communication with the hackney so they could come and pick up off the street. They weren't allowed to pick up the street. This was in 1998. We set up this company.
Long before Uber came along.
Long before, 10 years before a smartphone was even invented. So we used a little bit of technology rather than GPS, which goes where am I? We reverse that and go I am here, and then sent out the signal. So we kind of got a bit technical. Anyway, like we went in and we met venture capitalists, and they sat down and they said, and we all had jobs at the time. I was working for Duns, a mate of mine was with the bank, and another one was with Vodafone. And they said, okay, right, lads, when are you leaving your jobs? we kind of looked at each other and went, we're going to do this part-time. And the VC just got up and walked out. That was one of the ones that could have been. But the one that I admired most is Guinness. I just think for their marketing and their positioning, and like their marketing is just so superb, and how they're reinventing themselves. So if you think now that Guinness is actually growing at the moment, and how they're growing is that they're targeting younger female audience. Yeah. And they're becoming, but they're like, for a brand that's so old that would have been seen as old man's drink, maybe others too. They've managed to reposition themselves, and they're, as I said, they're marketing, they're online, they're social, they're in store, they're out of home. Yeah. I mean, and their product ingenuity, it's just, and look at 0.0, so that is a brand. I just think is someone that is really able to adapt and use all the omni channels to be able to not only sell but also able to just market super creativity.
Yeah. You love that. What's we spoke there about kind of hospitality, low margins, a difficult sector. What areas or what kind of, I suppose, hospitality business do you think can be maybe the most profitable? Like, a lot of people do say the mobile route, food trucks, because you're not paying high rents, and a lot of time labor is lower and stuff. What sort of I suppose business would you get into in the hospitality?
I have a couple of Insomnia franchises, and they're brilliant. Right. The coffee has, believe it or not, still got growth in relation to the amount of sort of cups and the amount of coffee that we drink. There is still growth within the Irish marketplace. But like that again, it's the cost of actually the fit out and the labor intensity of that. And that's where coffee is a prime example of where you can go autonomous, where you can dispense a very, very, very good cup of coffee by taking out the barista and automating it.
It's almost bizarre when you think to an extent how people are still actually pouring the coffee, because it seems like such a simple process to actually get someone to a robot to do.
Well, I would take Insomnia. We still do have a barista, but next time you're in some of the very big Seattle-based international chains, I'm not naming any names. Go and see. Look over the counter and see. Actually, is someone doing your coffee?
Okay.
Just take a look at that. I wouldn't be naming any names or anything like that. No. So some elements of that, they're absolutely brilliant at steaming milk, is what I'll say. They're brilliant milk steamers.
Right. I seen there was an amazing. I actually looked into it. I actually inquired about doing it myself. I was in America a couple of years ago, but there was it was effectively an ATM, and it's a franchise business over there. I don't know how big it is, but I think it's called Robo Coffee. But you would literally just go to the ATM, and the robot arms is working behind you.
I've seen that, and I just saw a report this week is that where it hasn't reached the kind of peak of where they're very expensive machines. They're about 25,000-30,000 because I looked at them myself. They had to be they work brilliantly, but have to be in really high footfall places.
Yeah, of course.
You're not going to stick them in into the top of Grafton. They need to be in somewhere Covent Garden, or need to be somewhere that's like super busy.
I get you. Okay, final one for you. What is, as I said at the start, you've your hands in lots of different pies in different industries and sectors. What's the future for you and your business over the next 12, 24 months?
Well, certainly within the hospitality, I, believe it or not, still see an opportunity in delivery. And why this is just from my businesses is that within the UK market, 9% breakfast would account for 9% of deliveries. In Ireland, it accounts for 3%.
Yeah.
So I think my business is predominantly breakfast and lunch focused. So I think there is a lot of growth to be able to get if you get it right out of breakfasts.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the market that I'm targeting. So I think that there still is, and actually this year, this is, even though we're under savage pressure, our margin has been cut to practically zero. Our business is still growing by 8.2% this year, but our cost base has just grown at twice that. So I still think there's growth next year, but it's going to be through the delivery route.
Interesting. Okay, I wasn't expecting the answer. But that's interesting, because a lot of people, I used to be involved in a delivery business. A lot of people are moving away from it. A lot of people give out about the costs associated with the third
Yeah,
parties.
okay, and you're right, there is. But the way I've looked at it, because I've done a trial for 6-7 months this year so far with delivery, is that, so yes, there is a cost, but obviously what we've done is that our takeaway prices are slightly higher to absorb some of that. But what we've done is that we're just targeting the breakfast. So we've not extended the opening hours. We're not bringing in any extra staff. So any of the orders that come in are new business, total new business. And one of the things what we've also done is that, again, knowing my market, knowing my demographics, is that we would see that we would have an elder cohort from 50, 60, 70, 80 as a customer base. And what we're doing is that we're targeting smaller portion sizes, and we're targeting the sons and daughters to buy for their parents and their grandparents.
Right.
So we're just carving out a little niche to say, okay, because if you're in your 70s and 80s, you might want the full roast, you might want the half roast, you might want a smaller breakfast, smaller chicken curry or lasagna. So we're basically, and the other thing too, someone came up to me too, is that we still have diced liver and caramelized onion on our menu. Again, very much aimed at a much older profile from something from 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But every day we get people coming in saying, can I have the liver? Can I have the liver piece? Can I have the chocolate? So it's just knowing, as I said, we're 58 years in business, and it's just knowing your customer base, tailoring it. And as I said, what we've done with delivery, and obviously too, we're not just on the big platforms, we're also working with our own, with kind of Flipdish in relation to, cutting the delivery fee. So, so it's got to be a blend. You just can't go all in and just say, okay, it's going to be delivery and Just Eat. You got to look at, and then you got to look at some contract and catering side of things out of the store. So it's a blend, but delivery is where I see the opportunity in for next year.
Fascinating. Wow. Well, that's a great place to end. Felim, thanks so much. It was a fascinating conversation.
There was one other thing too, just the very start. One of the questions I wanted to say is that if there was any lessons to learn, if I could give any lessons from, as I said, being in the business for 27 years, is that one of the things is try to stay in the game. Is just, and I know that's so simple as, but like just, I've often found is that if you stay in the game, opportunities arise. But from that is to don't ever duck your head in the sand. If there's an issue with a supplier, if there's an issue with a utility company, if there's an issue with a bank, don't duck your head in the sand and think it'll go away, because it won't. You have to engage. And even if you don't have the solution then, by engaging, talking, trying to work it out, even, if it's a payment plan that's needed over a year or 6 months or whatever it is, don't duck your head in the sand. And the last piece of advice is that being an owner of a business is a very lonely place. So it's always really, really important to talk to a peer. Don't try to bottle up everything inside. If I could get, that would be the one piece of advice, is really talk to a peer, talk to a colleague, because, if you're running a business, it is such a lonely place and you do need to talk to someone.
Yeah, lovely. Felim, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Chat to you.